The Apache woman said softly, "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." The sun had barely begun to rise, but the desert was already alive with its quiet, harsh sounds. The wind whispered through the dry brush, carrying the scent of sage and dust. A young woman moved slowly along the cracked earth, her thin shoes making little sound. Her skin was sunburned, and her throat was dry. She had been walking for hours, maybe days, though time felt strange in the emptiness. Her name was Clara, though she had not spoken it aloud for a long while. She had been alone for so long that her own voice felt foreign. Clara's eyes scanned the horizon. The desert seemed endless. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground like the ribs of some giant creature, and small sand dunes shifted with the wind. She had no clear destination, only the hope of finding water, shelter, or perhaps someone who would not see her as an intruder. The sun rose higher, burning more fiercely with each passing moment. She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders, hoping to protect herself from the heat, but the fabric did little to stop the sun's power. Suddenly, she heard a soft sound behind her. At first, she thought it was the wind. But then there was a voice, clear and calm, cutting through the desert's silence. "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." Clara froze. She turned, scanning the horizon. There was no one. Her heart raced. The words were strange, almost like a warning, yet they carried a weight that made her shiver. Then, slowly, she noticed movement. A figure emerged from behind a jagged rock. She could not see the person clearly at first, but as the figure stepped into the sunlight, she saw the woman's strong, calm face. She was Apache, her skin warm brown, her eyes sharp, her movements confident. Her hair was long and black, flowing behind her in the wind. She carried a simple bundle on her back, a blanket and a few tools, nothing else. The woman watched Clara carefully, her eyes steady and unafraid. Clara wanted to turn and run, but something in the woman's gaze stopped her. There was no threat there, only knowledge and quiet power. She had the feeling that this woman knew the desert in a way she could never hope to understand. "Who are you?" Clara asked, her voice dry and barely more than a whisper. The Apache woman said nothing at first. She tilted her head slightly, studying Clara. Then she spoke, her voice low and steady. "Walk with me. If you stray, the desert will take more than your steps." Clara hesitated, fear and curiosity mixing in her chest. But the woman turned, beginning to walk in a steady, sure rhythm. The desert stretched on endlessly, but somehow, following her, felt like safety. With no other choice, Clara fell into step, her body aching from long days of travel. The woman led her through narrow paths between rocks and hidden trails in the brush. She moved quietly, as though she belonged to the desert itself. Clara stumbled once or twice, but the woman's hand was always close, guiding, steadying, and protective. Each time she looked up at her, Clara felt a strange calm. There was a trust she had not known she could feel, a sense that survival was possible with someone who understood the land. The sun rose higher. Clara's throat burned with thirst. She finally spoke, asking, Where are we going?" The Apache woman stopped, looking back at her. She smiled faintly, but it was not a smile of joy. It was a smile of understanding, of knowing the hardships that life could bring. "To live," she said simply. "To live is enough for today. Tomorrow, we find water. Tonight, we rest. The desert is patient, but it does not forgive carelessness." Clara nodded. The words were strange, almost like a lesson hidden in an ordinary sentence. She followed the woman in silence, noticing how her eyes seemed to miss nothing. She watched as the woman examined the tracks in the sand, touched the plants to see if they held moisture, and listened to the wind for any signs of danger. Clara had never seen anyone move with such confidence and quiet power. By late morning, the heat was unbearable. The desert air shimmered above the sand like waves on a lake. Clara was dizzy and lightheaded, but the Apache woman remained calm. Finally, she motioned to a small, shaded area under a rock overhang. "Rest here," she said. "Drink slowly if you have water. Eat only if your body asks." Clara sank to the ground gratefully. She had no water, but she had a piece of dried bread she had saved from the day before. She ate it slowly, chewing carefully, savoring each bite. The woman sat nearby, watching her with quiet attention. There was a presence about her that made Clara feel safe, though the desert itself was harsh and unforgiving. Hours passed. The woman taught Clara how to look for signs of water, how to notice the plants that stored it, and how to read the tracks of small animals. She explained how the desert was full of life if one knew how to see it, but it was equally full of danger for those who did not respect it. Clara listened, fascinated and frightened. The world she had known was gone. Here in this vast emptiness, she felt small, but also alive in a way she had never known. As the sun began to lower in the sky, the woman finally spoke again. "We must move before the shadows grow long," she said. "The desert changes at sunset. Predators, both animal and human, take advantage of the dark. They traveled carefully, slowly, stopping often to observe the ground, the plants, and the horizon." Clara learned to be silent, to notice the smallest details, the broken twig, the faintest shadow, the slight change in the wind. The woman did not rush, but her movements were efficient, purposeful, as though every step had meaning. Night began to fall. The temperature dropped sharply. Clara shivered, wishing she had brought more than her thin shawl. The Apache woman unrolled her blanket and motioned for Clara to sit close. They shared a small fire, enough to keep the cold at bay, but not so much as to draw attention. The woman cooked a small meal from dried roots and plants she carried, showing Clara how to prepare them. Around the fire, the woman began to speak softly. She told stories of her people, of survival and loss, of bravery and quiet strength. Clara listened, enraptured. She had never known a world like this, where every action was meaningful and every life connected to the land. There was sadness in the stories, but also hope. And through it all, the woman's words carried the weight of truth. Finally, as they lay near the fire, Clara felt exhaustion pull at her. She looked at the woman and thought of the words spoken that morning. "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." She understood now that it was more than a warning. It was a promise. If she followed, if she learned, if she survived the night, there would be another day. If she strayed, if she gave up, the desert would not forgive. Clara closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of the fire and the steady presence of the woman beside her. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to hope. She was no longer entirely alone. The desert was still harsh, still dangerous, but for the first time, she felt that survival was possible. And with survival came something more. A chance to learn, to grow, and perhaps to understand the strength she had never known she possessed. The night stretched on. The stars appeared, bright and cold in the desert sky. Clara listened to the soft whispers of the wind and the quiet crackle of the fire. She thought of the journey ahead, of the lessons she would need to learn, and of the strange, fierce woman who had appeared from nowhere to guide her. She knew that dawn would come, that the desert would test her again, but for now, she felt the fragile comfort of hope. And so, under the vast desert sky, Clara began to understand what it meant to stay by the side of someone who knew the way, not just through the desert, but through life itself. The sunrise would come, but only if she followed, only if she trusted, and only if she survived a long, quiet night. The next morning, the desert was bathed in soft golden light. The sun rose slowly, painting the rocks and sand with colors that Clara had never noticed before. She opened her eyes to find the Apache woman already awake, moving quietly near the fire. She was checking their small supplies, making sure everything was ready for the day. Clara stretched, feeling the stiffness in her muscles, and remembered the words spoken the day before. "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." They began to walk again, the woman leading the way with steady, sure steps. Clara tried to match her pace, but she was slower, clumsier, unsure of how to move so carefully through the desert. The woman glanced back at her once, her dark eyes calm but firm. "Your feet must learn the rhythm of the land," she said. "Step lightly, but step with purpose. The desert rewards patience." Clara nodded, trying to follow the advice. She looked down at the ground, noticing the small details she had missed before: the faint trails of lizards, the marks of small birds, and the tiny, delicate flowers growing among the rocks. Each observation seemed important, though she did not yet understand why. As they walked, the woman began to teach Clara how to find water. She showed her the signs in the earth, certain plants that held moisture, shallow depressions where water gathered after a rare rain, and the trails of animals leading toward hidden springs. Clara listened carefully, absorbing each lesson. She realized how little she had known about survival, and how much the woman understood the desert secrets. By midday, the sun was hot and unrelenting. Clara's throat was dry, and her feet ached. The Apache woman stopped beside a cluster of low green plants. "These roots contain water," she said. She dug carefully, showing Clara how to extract the moisture without harming the plant. Clara followed, her hands trembling with excitement and relief as she tasted the small, precious drops. It was the first real water she had drunk in days. "You must learn to respect it," the woman said softly. "Water is life. Waste it, and the desert will remind you of its power." Clara nodded, feeling the truth in her words. She could feel the desert around her, not just the heat and sand, but its quiet strength, its patience, and its danger. As they continued walking, the woman taught Clara how to move silently. They crept over rocky paths, crouched behind bushes, and listened to the sounds of the wind and animals. Clara learned to hear the smallest changes in the desert: the snap of a twig, the rustle of a lizard, the distant cry of a hawk. She realized that every sound had meaning, and every shadow could tell a story if one paid attention. The afternoon passed slowly. Clara's muscles ached, and she was tempted to complain or give up. But the Apache woman never hurried her, never forced her, only guided her patiently. At one point, Clara stumbled over a rock and almost fell. The woman caught her arm, steadying her. "The desert teaches through mistakes," she said. "Do not fear them. Learn from them." They stopped near a small canyon as the sun began to lower in the sky. The woman found a safe place to camp, hidden from view and sheltered from the wind. She showed Clara how to gather dry wood for a small fire and how to prepare a meal from roots and dried plants. Clara watched carefully, amazed at the woman's skill and knowledge. She felt a deep respect growing inside her, mixed with awe and gratitude. After their meal, the woman sat close to Clara and began to speak of the world beyond the desert. She told stories of her people, of their struggles and triumphs, of lessons learned over generations. Clara listened, fascinated. She had never heard such wisdom spoken in such simple, clear words. Each story seemed to carry meaning not just for survival, but for life itself. "You see, Clara," the woman said, "life is like the desert. It can be harsh, it can be empty, but it is also full of lessons. Every step you take, every choice you make, matters. You must pay attention. You must listen." Clara nodded, feeling the weight of the words. She began to understand that survival was not only about finding food or water, it was about understanding the world and her place in it. As the evening came, the woman taught Clara how to prepare for the night. They set a small fire and used rocks and sand to create a safe space to rest. The woman explained how the desert changed at night, how predators moved quietly, and how the wind could carry both danger and guidance. Clara listened closely, feeling both fear and determination. She realized that the desert demanded respect, not fear, and that she was learning to respect it. That night, as Clara lay near the fire, she tried to sleep. The stars were bright and countless, scattered across the sky like silver dust. She felt the quiet power of the desert, the presence of the woman beside her, and the truth of the morning's words. Staying by her side was not just about safety. It was about learning, growing, and understanding a world that was bigger and older than she had ever imagined. The next morning, they continued their journey. Clara's confidence had grown slightly. She could move more quickly, notice the signs in the desert, and anticipate danger. The woman taught her how to track animals, how to follow the subtle signs of water or shelter, and how to use the sun and stars to navigate. Clara felt herself changing, becoming stronger, more aware, more capable. During their travels, they encountered challenges. A sudden storm swept through the canyon, with wind and sand making it almost impossible to see. The woman guided Clara to a small overhang, sheltering them from the worst of it. She showed Clara how to make a simple barrier to keep sand from filling their small space. Clara was amazed at her skill, but she also realized how much she still had to learn. After the storm passed, they continued walking. The woman's lessons grew deeper. She taught Clara how to identify edible plants, how to prepare them safely, and how to use simple tools to make life easier in the desert. Clara practiced, sometimes making mistakes, sometimes succeeding. Each small success felt like a victory, and each mistake was a lesson that would never be forgotten. One evening, they reached a small spring hidden in the rocks. Clara could hardly believe her eyes. The water was clear, cool, and life-giving. The woman smiled, showing her how to collect it carefully, how to drink without wasting a drop, and how to move quietly so as not to disturb the delicate balance of the oasis. Clara drank slowly, feeling life flow through her body in a way she had not felt for days. Sitting by the spring, Clara realized something important. She was no longer the same person who had wandered alone in the desert. She had learned to observe, to listen, to move with care, and to respect the world around her. The Apache woman had taught her not just survival, but awareness, patience, and understanding. That night, as they rested near the spring, Clara felt a growing bond with the woman. She was no longer just a guide or protector. She was a teacher, a friend, and a source of strength. Clara knew that staying by her side was not just about physical survival. It was about learning, growing, and becoming someone capable of facing the world with courage and wisdom. Before sleep, the woman spoke softly, repeating the words that had first guided Clara. "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." This time, Clara understood more deeply. The sunrise was not just the day beginning, it was life itself, and staying by her side meant choosing to live fully. to learn, and to grow stronger. As she drifted to sleep, Clara felt a quiet determination. The desert was vast and dangerous, but she was no longer alone. She had someone to guide her, to teach her, and to show her the way. She would follow, she would learn, and she would survive. And in doing so, she would begin to understand the true meaning of the words that had saved her life. The night passed quietly. The stars shone bright, the wind whispered through the rocks, and Clara slept with the steady presence of the Apache woman beside her. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new tests of courage and patience. But for the first time in a long while, she felt hope. She felt the possibility of life, of learning, and of becoming someone strong and capable in a world that demanded respect and understanding. The desert morning was colder than Clara expected. The warmth of the fire from the night before had faded, leaving the air crisp and the earth hard. She stretched her arms, feeling the stiffness from days of walking, and looked around at the Apache woman who was already awake, moving quietly. Clara had begun to notice a pattern. The woman always rose first, always prepared first, always observed before acting. It was a rhythm that the desert demanded, and Clara was learning to follow. They continued their journey along a narrow canyon path. The sun rose slowly, casting long shadows between the rocks. Clara had begun to move more confidently, her eyes scanning for signs of water, shelter, or danger. She could track the faint prints of lizards and small birds, notice changes in the wind, and recognize plants that held life-giving moisture. She had grown stronger, more aware, but she also knew the desert could be unforgiving. By midday, the heat was fierce. Clara's water supply was low, and the sun's rays seemed to weigh heavily on her shoulders. The Apache woman noticed her fatigue and motioned for a break. They settled near a rocky outcrop, where a small patch of shade provided temporary relief. Clara drank slowly from her water pouch, savoring every drop. She realized that she had come to understand the importance of even the smallest resource in this harsh land. As they rested, the Apache woman began to speak about dangers beyond the desert itself. "There are those who do not respect this land," she said. "They hunt not for food, but for gain, or simply because they can. You must be cautious. The desert does not forgive carelessness, but some people are even less forgiving." Clara listened intently, sensing the seriousness in her voice. She had heard rumors of bandits, soldiers, and settlers who could pose threats to anyone traveling alone. The woman's eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon as if reading secrets in the shifting sands. Their journey resumed, and Clara felt a tension she had not felt before. She noticed every sound, the rustle of bushes, the distant cry of a hawk, even the subtle movement of the wind through the rocks. The woman had taught her to read these signs, but now they seemed warnings rather than lessons. Hours passed quietly, until suddenly Clara froze. She had seen something unusual. Faint footprints in the sand, human footprints, moving toward them. The Apache woman saw them too. She crouched low, motioning for Clara to do the same. "They are close," she whispered. "We must be silent and careful." Clara's heart pounded. She had never faced humans as a threat before, only the challenges of the land itself. Now, the desert felt even more dangerous. They moved slowly, keeping low behind rocks and brush. Clara tried to remember everything the woman had taught her. Move quietly, observe carefully, and trust your instincts. As they crept forward, the footprints became clearer. They were not old. Someone had passed through this canyon recently. Clara's mind raced with possibilities. Who could they be? Were they friendly, or were they dangerous? The woman's calm presence helped steady her, but fear still gnawed at her stomach. Suddenly a voice called out in the distance. Clara's heart leapt into her throat. The voice was rough, demanding, and not meant to greet a traveler kindly. The woman crouched closer to Clara and whispered, "Do not answer. Do not move, unless I tell you." They hid behind a large rock, holding their breath as two men came into view. They were strangers, armed with rifles, their eyes scanning the land carelessly. Clara felt a shiver of fear. She had never been so close to danger. The Apache woman studied them carefully, her eyes sharp. "They are not looking for food or shelter," she said quietly. "They are looking for trouble. We must move, carefully and quietly, or they will see us." Clara nodded, her hands trembling slightly, but she followed her guide's movements. They slipped silently between rocks, keeping shadows to their side and staying out of sight. Every step was a test, every movement a measure of their skill and caution. Hours seemed to pass as they maneuvered through the canyon. Clara's legs ached, her hands were scraped from the rocks, and her throat was parched. Yet she felt a strange strength growing within her. She was learning to move like the woman, to observe like the woman, to think ahead and anticipate danger. For the first time, she understood what it meant to truly survive in the desert. Not just to walk through it, but to read it, respect it, and adapt to it. As the sun began to lower, the woman found a hidden spot near a cluster of rocks. They crouched there, watching the strangers pass below in the canyon. Clara could feel her heart racing, but she also felt a growing sense of pride. She had faced fear and had not frozen. She had learned to trust her guide, to trust her own instincts, and to stay focused even when the danger was near. After the strangers disappeared, the woman finally spoke. "You did well," she said softly. "But this is only the beginning. The desert will continue to test you, as will the people who do not understand it." Clara nodded, realizing the truth in her words. She had survived this encounter, but she knew more challenges lay ahead. Night fell, and they set up camp in a safe, hidden spot. Clara helped prepare the fire and gather food. The woman taught her how to use the stars to navigate, how to predict weather changes, and how to find safe paths in the dark. Clara listened, absorbing every detail. She knew that the lessons were not just about survival. They were about understanding the world and learning to move through it wisely. As they rested near the fire, the woman shared more of her story. She spoke of her childhood, of learning from elders, and of the ways her people had survived for generations in this harsh land. Clara listened with fascination, feeling a deep respect for the woman's knowledge and resilience. She began to understand that the desert was not just a place of danger. It was a teacher, and the woman was its guide. The night was quiet, but Clara could not sleep easily. She thought about the strangers they had encountered, about the dangers that might still be waiting, and about how much she had yet to learn. Yet, alongside her fear, there was a growing determination. She wanted to be strong, capable, and ready for whatever the desert and the people who did not respect it might bring. The next morning, they continued their journey. The woman tested Clara further, pointing out subtle signs in the sand, teaching her to predict changes in the wind, and showing her how to detect hidden water sources. Clara practiced, sometimes making mistakes, sometimes succeeding. Each lesson was a small victory, each success a step toward confidence and independence. By midday, they reached a small plateau overlooking the canyon. The view was breathtaking, endless desert stretching in every direction, the sun casting golden light on the rocks and sand. The woman motioned for Clara to sit and rest. "Look at this," she said. "The desert is harsh, but it is also beautiful. You must see both, or you will not survive." Clara understood. The desert was more than a challenge. It was a teacher, a world that demanded respect, and a place that revealed strength in those who learned its ways. As they prepared to continue, Clara noticed a shadow moving in the distance. Her heart quickened. The woman observed it calmly and whispered, "Stay low. Watch. Learn." Clara crouched beside her, her eyes scanning the horizon. The shadow passed without incident, but Clara realized how much she had grown. She was no longer simply following. She was learning to anticipate, to observe, and to act with care. That evening, as they set up camp, the woman spoke again. "Clara, you are learning. You are becoming stronger, wiser, and more aware. But remember, the desert is patient. It tests and it teaches, but it never forgives carelessness. You must stay alert, stay humble, and stay by my side. Only then will the sunrise come for you." Clara nodded, feeling the weight and truth of her words. She understood that the desert, the woman, and the journey itself were shaping her into someone new, someone capable of facing life's challenges with courage, wisdom, and patience. As night fell, Clara gazed at the stars. The desert seemed alive with quiet whispers and distant sounds. She felt the presence of the Apache woman beside her, steady and calm. She thought of the day's lessons, the dangers they had avoided, and the growing strength within herself. For the first time, she truly believed that she could survive, that she could learn, and that she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, under the vast, silent sky of the desert, Clara learned the most important lesson of all. Survival was not just about moving through the land, but about understanding it, respecting it, and growing stronger through each test. She had faced danger, observed the ways of the desert, and begun to trust both herself and her guide. And in that trust, she discovered a quiet, steady hope that the sunrise would indeed come for her, as long as she stayed by the woman's side. The desert morning was quiet but tense. Clara woke with a sense of unease, the air heavier than usual, as if the land itself was warning her of what lay ahead. The Apache woman was already awake, moving with her usual calm precision, checking their small supplies and scanning the horizon. Clara felt a mixture of excitement and fear. She knew today would be different. She could sense it in the wind, in the birds, and in the way the sun rose slowly over the desert. They began walking early, the rocks warm under their feet and the air dry and still. The Apache woman moved with a careful rhythm, her eyes constantly observing. Clara followed closely, her body stronger than before, her senses sharper. She could read the subtle signs in the sand, notice changes in the wind, and predict the movements of animals. She had learned so much, but she also knew that the desert could still surprise her. By late morning, they reached a narrow canyon that was unfamiliar to Clara. The walls of the canyon were steep, the path winding and treacherous. The woman signaled for her to stop. "This canyon is dangerous," she said. "Many have passed through and not returned. You must be careful. Every step matters." Clara's heart beat faster. She had faced danger before, but this felt different, more immediate, more real. As they moved cautiously through the canyon, the ground suddenly shifted beneath Clara's foot. She stumbled but managed to catch herself. The woman reached out and steadied her. "The desert tests those who are not mindful," she said. "You must move with awareness, always. One mistake can change everything." Clara nodded, feeling both fear and determination. She had come too far to give up now. They continued, deeper into the canyon. The walls grew higher, casting shadows that made it difficult to see. Clara's heart raced with each step, every sound amplified in the still air. Then she heard it, a faint rustling from above. She looked up, her eyes widening. A small group of people, strangers, were moving along the edge of the canyon, their eyes scanning the ground below. Clara froze. She remembered the lessons of the Apache woman. Move silently, observe carefully, and trust your instincts. The woman crouched beside her and whispered, "They are not here by chance. They mean harm. We must act wisely." Clara nodded, though her hands trembled. Together they moved slowly, hiding behind rocks, using shadows to stay out of sight. The strangers were close, their footsteps echoing through the canyon. Clara felt her pulse quicken, but she forced herself to stay calm. She remembered the woman's teachings: patience, awareness, and trust. Suddenly, one of the strangers looked down toward Clara and the woman. Clara held her breath. The woman motioned for her to stay still and whispered, "Do not move. Let them pass." Clara's heart pounded, but she obeyed. The strangers paused for a moment, scanning the canyon, then continued along the path, unaware of their presence. Clara exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. She realized how much she had learned, how much she had grown. She was no longer helpless. They continued through the canyon, but the danger was not over. Ahead, a narrow ledge rose above a steep drop. The woman stopped and studied it carefully. "This is the final test," she said softly. "You must move carefully. Trust yourself and what you have learned." Clara's stomach tightened. The ledge was narrow, the drop terrifying. But she remembered the lessons of the past days: observe, move with purpose, and trust. She took a deep breath and began to step carefully along the ledge. Each movement was deliberate. Clara felt the wind brushing against her face, the rock solid beneath her feet. She focused on every step, every shift of weight, every small adjustment. The Apache woman moved beside her, guiding her with gentle words and steady hands. Clara realized that fear was natural, but courage was choosing to move forward despite it. Halfway across, a sudden gust of wind rattled Clara's balance. She stumbled, her heart racing, but the woman's hand was there instantly. "Steady," she said, her voice calm and firm. Clara focused, adjusted her footing, and continued. She felt a surge of pride and determination. She was applying everything she had learned: the skills, the awareness, the patience, and the trust in herself and her guide. They reached the other side safely, and Clara collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily, but smiling. The woman nodded, her eyes shining with approval. "You have done well," she said. "You have learned not just to survive, but to face the desert with respect and courage." Clara felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that the journey had changed her. She was stronger, wiser, and more confident than she had ever been. As they rested, the woman shared more stories of her people, of battles fought not with weapons, but with patience, wisdom, and understanding of the land. Clara listened, fascinated. She saw the connection between the lessons she had learned and the history of the people who had survived in this harsh desert for generations. She began to understand that strength was not just physical, it was mental, emotional, and spiritual. The afternoon passed quietly. Clara felt a growing sense of calm and confidence. She began to notice small details she had overlooked before: the way the wind moved through the rocks, the patterns of shadows on the sand, the sounds of distant animals. Each observation was a reminder that the desert was alive, and that she was becoming a part of it, learning to move with it rather than against it. As the sun began to set, the woman led Clara to a small, hidden spring. The water was clear and cool, a precious gift in the desert. Clara drank slowly, savoring every drop, and felt renewed. The woman showed her how to use the water wisely, how to preserve it, and how to use it to sustain not just herself, but life around her. Clara realized that every lesson had a deeper meaning. Survival was not only about herself, but about understanding and respecting the world around her.
That evening, they set up camp near the spring.
Clara helped prepare a small fire, using skills she had learned over the past days. She gathered roots and small plants, cooking a simple but nourishing meal. As they sat by the fire, the woman spoke softly. "You have faced your greatest test today," she said. "But remember, life will always present challenges. The lessons you have learned here will guide you, but you must continue to observe, to listen, and to act with care." Clara nodded, feeling the truth in her words. The night was quiet, but Clara could not sleep immediately. She thought about the day's events, the danger they had faced, the lessons she had applied, and the strength she had discovered within herself. She realized that the desert was not just a place of hardship, but a teacher, a guide, and a mirror of her own courage and growth. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the woman who had guided her and for the lessons that had transformed her. Before sleep, the woman repeated the words that had guided Clara from the beginning. "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." Clara understood now that the sunrise was more than the beginning of a day. It was life itself, hope, and the promise of growth. Staying by her side meant learning, trusting, and embracing the strength within herself. She closed her eyes, feeling a quiet determination and a sense of readiness for whatever lay ahead. The night passed peacefully. The stars shone brightly, the wind whispered softly, and Clara slept with a growing sense of confidence. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she also knew that she was ready. She had faced danger, applied her knowledge, and discovered courage she had never known. She was no longer a helpless traveler in the desert. She was a learner, a survivor, and someone capable of facing life's tests with patience, awareness, and trust. And so, as the first light of dawn touched the desert, Clara awoke feeling renewed. She felt the presence of the Apache woman beside her, steady, calm, and strong. She knew that the journey was not yet over, but she also knew that she had passed a great test. She had survived the canyon, avoided danger, and grown stronger in mind, body, and spirit. The sunrise had come for her, and she understood its true meaning: life, growth, and the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next morning, the desert seemed calmer, almost gentle as the first light of dawn touched the rocks and sand. Clara awoke with a sense of anticipation. She felt the strength in her body that had grown over the past days, and the clarity in her mind that came from lessons learned through careful observation and courage. The Apache woman was already awake, quietly preparing their small fire and scanning the horizon, as she always did. Clara rose slowly, feeling a mixture of excitement and gratitude. They began walking early, their movements calm and purposeful. The woman led the way, but Clara noticed something remarkable. She no longer felt completely dependent. Her own instincts guided her steps, helping her notice subtle details in the land, small signs of water or shelter, and shifts in the wind that indicated changes in the weather. She was learning to move not just with guidance but with her own awareness. By late morning, the desert heat pressed down on them, but Clara did not falter. She remembered the lessons of the Apache woman: patience, observation, and respect for the land. They paused in the shade of a rocky overhang, drinking water carefully and resting briefly. The woman handed Clara a small root she had cleaned and prepared. "Food and water sustain the body," she said. "Wisdom sustains the mind. Remember both." Clara nodded, tasting the root with appreciation. Each simple act felt like a connection to the desert and to the woman who had guided her so far. As they continued, the path became narrower, winding along a high ridge that offered a breathtaking view of the valley below. Clara felt both awe and caution. The wind whistled softly around them, carrying the scent of the desert plants and the distant sound of a bird in flight. She realized how much she had learned about this land, the patterns of its weather, the signs of life hidden in the rocks and sand, and the ways in which every living thing was connected. Suddenly, the Apache woman paused and crouched low. Clara followed instinctively. Ahead, she noticed faint signs of other people, tracks in the sand, the distant glint of metal. She felt a flicker of fear, but the woman's calm presence steadied her. "We are not alone," the woman whispered. "Some may mean harm, but others may simply pass through. Observe first, act wisely second." Clara's heart pounded, but she understood. Patience and observation were as vital as courage. They moved carefully, using shadows and rocks for cover. The strangers passed without noticing them, continuing along the canyon below. Clara felt a surge of confidence. She had learned to read the signs, to anticipate danger, and to move without drawing attention. The lessons of the past days had prepared her not only to survive, but to face the unknown with awareness and calm. By afternoon, the desert stretched endlessly before them, golden under the sunlight. The Apache woman led Clara to a hidden spring, small and clear, nestled between rocks. Clara drank slowly, feeling life return to her body. The woman showed her how to use the water with care, to preserve it, and to respect its importance. Clara realized that every lesson she had learned was not only about survival, but also about understanding the world and her place in it. They rested near the spring, preparing a small meal. The woman spoke softly, telling Clara more about her people, their traditions, their struggles, and their deep connection to the land. Clara listened, fascinated. She realized that her journey was not only about surviving the desert, but also about learning a way of life, a way of seeing the world with patience, respect, and understanding. As evening approached, the woman began preparing their campsite for the night. Clara helped, using the skills she had learned, gathering firewood, arranging shelter, and ensuring their water supply was safe. She felt a sense of accomplishment. She had grown from a scared, exhausted traveler into someone capable, aware, and resilient. The desert had tested her, taught her, and transformed her. That night, as the sky darkened and the stars appeared, Clara reflected on her journey. She thought of the challenges she had faced, the harsh heat, the treacherous paths, the strangers who might have caused harm. She thought of the lessons she had learned: observation, patience, courage, and respect for the land. She realized that the most important lesson was trust. Trust in herself, trust in the desert, and trust in the Apache woman who had guided her. The woman spoke softly as they sat by the fire. "You have learned well, Clara. You have faced fear, observed carefully, and acted with patience. But the desert's greatest lessons are not yet finished. Life will always bring challenges. Remember what you have learned, and you will find your way." Clara nodded, feeling the truth in her words. She understood now that survival was not just about food, water, or shelter. It was about wisdom, awareness, and courage. When the first light of dawn began to appear, Clara awoke with a sense of peace. The sky was painted with soft hues of orange and gold. The desert bathed in warmth and light. She felt a connection to the land she had never felt before. The Apache woman stood nearby, watching the sunrise with quiet reverence. Clara joined her, feeling the calm strength of the moment. The woman spoke softly, repeating the words that had guided Clara from the beginning. Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." Clara smiled, understanding the deeper meaning now. The sunrise was not just the beginning of a day, it was life itself, hope and renewal. Staying by her side had been about learning, trust, and growth. She had survived the desert, faced danger, and discovered strength she never knew she had. Together they walked toward the rising sun, the light casting long shadows behind them. Clara felt a sense of freedom and possibility. She realized that the desert had not only tested her, but had also taught her to see beauty in the harshest places, to find strength in fear, and to trust in herself and in the wisdom of those who guide her. As they continued, Clara noticed the small details of the desert with renewed appreciation. The way the wind moved through the plants, the distant cry of a hawk, the shimmer of sunlight on the rocks. Each detail was a reminder of the lessons she had learned and the growth she had achieved. She felt a sense of gratitude, not only for the Apache woman, but for the desert itself, which had challenged and transformed her. By midday, they reached a high ridge overlooking a vast valley. Clara paused to take in the view. The desert stretched endlessly, golden and alive with quiet movement. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and peace. She had faced fear, learned from the land, and discovered her own strength. She understood that life was full of challenges, but with patience, awareness, and courage, she could navigate them successfully. The Apache woman turned to her, smiling softly. "You have grown, Clara," she said. "You are no longer the traveler who wandered alone. You have learned to survive, to observe, and to trust. Remember these lessons, and you will always find your way." Clara nodded, feeling the truth of the words. She realized that the journey was not just about reaching a destination, it was about discovering herself and her own strength. As evening approached, they set up a final campsite near a small grove of trees, a rare oasis in the vast desert. Clara helped prepare their fire and meal. Feeling a sense of independence and confidence, she reflected on the journey, every challenge, every lesson, and every moment of growth. She realized that the desert had been more than a test. It had been a teacher, a guide, and a mirror of her own courage and resilience. That night, as the stars appeared and the desert whispered softly around them, Clara felt a deep sense of peace. She knew that the lessons of the past days would stay with her forever. She had learned patience, observation, courage, and trust. She had faced danger, overcome fear, and discovered strength she had never known. And she understood the true meaning of the words that had guided her from the beginning. "Stay by my side, or the sunrise won't come for you." As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Clara awoke feeling renewed and alive. The sunrise was beautiful, painting the desert in shades of gold and orange. She stood beside the Apache woman, feeling the warmth of the sun and the strength of her own growth. She knew that the journey was not over. Life would continue to bring challenges, but she was ready. She was stronger, wiser, and more confident than she had ever been. Clara looked at the rising sun and smiled. She had survived the desert, learned from the land, and grown in ways she had never imagined. She had faced fear, trusted her guide, and discovered the courage within herself. The sunrise had come, just as the woman had promised, and it carried with it the promise of life, hope, and endless possibilities. And so, Clara's journey reached its quiet but powerful conclusion. She had learned that true strength comes not just from surviving, but from observing, learning, and trusting. She had discovered the beauty and wisdom of the desert, the importance of patience and courage, and the value of guidance from those who know the way. As she walked toward the light of the new day, she carried with her not only the lessons of the desert, but also the strength, wisdom, and hope that would guide her for the rest of her life.